Good morning, good morning, good morning. I am Phil. I am the Down Under Maker. How is everybody this morning? I was just testing my audio, so just let me mute that so that we don't get any echoes. Well, looks like we've got a few people in chat already. There's Mike, there's Penguin, there's Caleb. A little bit earlier, we had a drive-by from 3D Medic Vince. So that looks like we're all on good. And Rod did a quick cruise by. He may or may not be here today, he says, but hopefully he will. So I'm just tidying up my screen because I had me on it and I don't like seeing me, especially with an 8-second delay. It's really drives me nuts. So just clearing that up. There we go. Now, what are we doing today? We are doing more work on the Big Voron and possibly some electrical work in terms of tidying up all the wiring under there. We also need to fit the screen now that I've printed a mount for it and go from there. It's been quite an eventful week. I've been printing lots of weird and wonderful stuff this week. I will show you some of my failures and explain what was going on, and yeah, prototyping and all sorts of stuff been going on. So let's swap over to a slightly different view. There we go. That's me. That's me. Yeah, everything's working. Let's move that out of the way. There. So this is my mount that I've cobbled together, is probably a good way of describing it. It's basically two pre-existing mounts that I found on printables that I've smooshed together. Well, one of them was actually the Big Tree Tech GitHub. So the main chassis that holds the screen, that is Big Tree Tech's. And then the base is the original mount. Oh, hi Raj. This is the mount that is designed to hold the original HDMI 5. And I've kind of smooshed them, for lack of a better way of describing it. It's not a perfect design, and there's a few little bits I want to fix up before I make it available, but it's practical and it works. Now, it looks disgusting, and I'll get into why in a minute. But here's some prototypes. This was my first version. It was close, but there was a few things not quite right with it, and I'll explain. Big Tree Tech's design is basically this tray. And there was a few things that weren't quite as required. For a start, I prefer to have a heatsink on the chip that sits right here, where my finger is. And so to make sure that the heatsink had enough room, I needed a cutout. So I cut that in with side cutters just to mock it all up and make sure it was roughly what I wanted and to measure where it needed to be. And yeah, let's look at how disgusting that print quality is. I'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, it served its purpose. Then I tried again. There's the updated bit where I was starting to put in a support here. And I needed to cut deeper holes here and here to make sure everything fit. And the print quality is even more disgusting. Look at that. Icky. So I got to this point and went, yeah, that print looks disgusting, and just stopped. It served its purpose in terms of being able to know that everything would fit here and here and here. But yeah, yuck. So then we got onto this one. And the print quality was, again, pretty disgusting. But the print finished, and all the surfaces you can see aren't too bad. Now, it turned out that the nozzle itself was end of life. I put it under the microscope and measured, and what was supposed to be a 0.4 nozzle was closer to 0.5, and it was now egg-shaped and a little tiny chip out of it. So that one went in the bin to prevent me doing silly things and accidentally swapping it back in later. And I swapped in for a brand new nozzle, and the print quality all of a sudden went from disgusting to not too bad. Other things I've been doing. My little guy's birthday's coming up. So I've been trying to find toys for his birthday party. And this is something I found on Printables. I'm not a process shill. I'm just, Printables is there and convenient and works most of the time. Everybody knows I will call a spade a spade. But yeah, I'm learning to print on tissue paper. Now, this wing was printed with the disgusting nozzle and it's all floppy. Don't know if you guys can see, but those lines are coming apart. Can't really easily see on camera because it's too white. But yeah, the lines aren't particularly good and they're starting to pull apart. And then this was printed on the new nozzle and all of a sudden print quality's back. So I think I'm onto something having replaced the nozzle, and also printing on tissue paper is surprisingly easy. It just works. So the tissue paper provides the skin for the wings and the tail surfaces, and hopefully that will mean that we've got something cool to play with for all his little friends. Gergman, you're here. You're a BTT shield, but for great reasons. I try not to be. I mean, I think everybody knows by now that I talk straight. I'm not going to blow hot air up anybody's butt. If I like something, it's because it's actually good, not because somebody's paid me to. Now, this is one of the things we were working on last week, but we didn't get a chance to fix and check. I found a new battery for my meter. There we go. And let's tell it we're measuring a network cable. There we go. Helps if I plug that all the way in. Success! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and they are all lined up. So that means that the network extension cable that we made last week actually does work. You absolutely talk straight. That's the aim. I want anything I say to be trustworthy in terms of, yeah, Phil's not spinning shit. So network cable is ready to go, so we can install that into the printer. And what else have we got? Oh, we've got a giant mailbag haul. I've been slowly gearing up in terms of being able to provide some slightly different content, doing MCU board repairs and possibly even designing our own. And I got a bunch of cool stuff. Plus there's parts for more mercury modding on the Ender 5. So all I've done with most of this stuff is just check to make sure I'm not doxing myself with an address. I'm good, Caleb. Yes, YouTube's scripts have been doing strange things. So what these are, guys, is these are the 5mm dowels that are needed for the Merc conversion that the bearings run on. So they're all there. I'm going to put those all back in that bag. And let's label this stuff as we go, because otherwise that's 5mm dowel. And I'm going to put that in the printer. This feels like bearings. This is probably the last of the 695 bearings I was missing. I'm doing good, Caleb. Yeah, last few weeks have been a bit crappy in terms of kids' health and all the rest of it, so... Oh, they sent non-flanged. I ordered flanged. They're nice Fushi bearings. They are the genuine article, but they've sent the non-ZZs with the flange. That one will have to get checked, chased up. And this, oh, that's something else I've been working on. Let's introduce this while I'm here. I've been using a couple of different little tool holders over the last few weeks, trying to work one out. but I designed my own. Now, there's something not quite right here. I think I got a bit ambitious with how few walls I was using. But yeah, this holds many, many things. And it's actually designed so all the soldering tips that I've been acquiring will go in here. All my screwdrivers go here. And I have many, many things in the middle, like these flux. Where's Dave? David, are you around? No, it doesn't look like he's here yet. With 3D printing, we all know has a hate-hate relationship with flux. So hopefully with some of this soldering stuff I'm going to be doing, we can change his mind. Now that's what I've been looking for. Let's go to that one. Let's see if I can get this one to focus. There's a texture on my paw. That is a soldering tip for micro soldering. Oh, that way. So I'm just going to leave that in here for now. You prefer caramel Tim Tams over the original Penguin? Heathen. Absolute heathen. And hopefully this is also another tiny soldering tip. Yes. Now these are going to look exactly identical, but they're actually one for each size of soldering head I bought. That's a little bit bigger. So I'll put that back in its tub for now. And there can all go in the bin. Now, that's the little stuff. The bearings I need to deal with later, but that's not a huge deal. Now we have electronical type toys. Did I put my knife in here yet? Yes, I did. Let's go to the overhead. Now this is a multimeter. I can tell because the brand used their sticky tape to tape the box up. Now this isn't, oh, hi Jex. This isn't like a crazy multi-featured multimeter like my Fluke. This is designed so that you guys get to join the fun with me. So, what's in here? This looks like a pretty reasonable set of probes. It's not going to be as good as the ones I prefer. Yeah. They're okay tips. They're all right for most people's use. But for what we're going to be doing, I've put my Fluke in the garage when I was testing something. The stuff we're going to be doing needs much, much, much bigger tips. Now, this is what makes the difference. This cable is a data relay cable. So what we can do is we can actually put all the multimeter display up on OBS for you guys to see. Now, I'm not going to spend the time downloading and installing the software now. I'll get that done for next week's stream. That way, Phil. So yeah, I'm going to leave the screen protector on for now, and we'll do a peel next week when we have a little bit of a play. But what we can do in the meantime is we can put it on charge. One thing that has always driven me nuts with the multimeters I've had until now, hi Brad, is that the batteries are never there when you want them. They've always gone flat for some reason. So having a rechargeable meter is going to be a big upgrade. That's strange. So guys, just checking what's going on with this. I think something weird going on with my USB hub. It does boot up. There we go. So nice big display for me to see, and it'll also be on OBS for you guys because it can talk to OBS. So let's put all this back in the box. Hi John, hi Jex. Raj already said hi to you. He said hi to Brad. Turn that off. Now that's got some really nice features in terms of its auto ranging and other bits and pieces. So what that means is I can pretty much just tap whatever I need to tap and it will automatically display what I need it to. Now here's the other nice piece of kit I picked up. Now this is probably going to be a bit close to the... Oh yeah, let's just... I did remove the shipping label. I did just enough to the box to allow us to open it. I haven't actually even got this far yet. Foamage. Ooh, that feels nice and heavy. Now this has been sitting in customs for 3.5 weeks. If it had been delayed any more, I was about to be issued a refund automatically by AliExpress. I was like, sweet, I might get a refund and get it for free, or it might turn up. It turned up. So what this is a hot air station. I've used them before heaps with a couple of the schools I've worked with, but they've always been kind of crusty and student abused. So having my own and one that's pretty and has actually nice functions on it is going to be a win. So just going to leave it on its back for a second. See if we can get rid of some of that shine. Not really. Essentially, you can adjust the temperature and the amount of blow from the fan, and a bunch of presets, and it will then blow really hot air at whatever you're working on, and then you can do soldering with the hot air rather than with a soldering iron. So what this is useful for is really small micro soldering, where a soldering tip is just too big. I was just showing you micro tips, and they're too big for some of the work. But this, let's see if I can line this up with this. Move that out of the way. Put that there. Cable around the back. Turn the camera this way. And that's on. And oh, there we go. There we go. All boots up, and then you pull it out. It heats up and blows hot air. Really quite hot air. And when you put it back in its stand, it cools down automatically. Now the idea is you can have your head on here and you can pull the tip off and you can store extra tips. Oh, I was blocking all this out, wasn't I? There we go, that's better. the idea is you can use this big metal prong here to pull off the little nozzles and store spare nozzles in this bit. But this is cast iron. So that's heavy as F. And that's the hot air station. We'll play with this in a couple of weeks, I think. I really need to do some micro soldering practice, and why not do some of it with you guys, if you're interested. So I'm just going to unplug this and move it out of the way. And then we can move on with some of what you're actually here for, which is playing with that big boron. Now, the eagle-eyed amongst you may have spotted a Type-C port on the front of it. That Type-C port is for updating programs on it. So potentially, if you've got a production line of multiple boards, you could have a whole bunch of staff deployed to build it, and you can actually send specific settings for a production run sent to the machines. Someone is going to be reballing. Eventually, hopefully. For people who don't know what that is, some of these microchips let's see if we can make this work today. No, side cam is what I want. Some microchips have the pins on the bottom, and what you do is you put a tiny ball of solder onto each of those little dots, and then you put it into place. Now, if you're talking about CPUs on computers, they may have close to 1,000 pins on the bottom, 1,000 of those little dots. So what you do is in advance, you add solder balls to each and every one of those dots, melt them into place, and then you put the chip into place and heat it up using the hot air gun, and it goes whoosh, and it sucks itself right into place all by itself. And it's one of those really cool uses of surface tension. One of those things you never thought you'd ever need to worry about from science class, and all of a sudden it becomes actually useful. But surface tension, it does half the work for you. That's the nozzles off the hot air station. Just to show you. That bit stuff's on the front, and these bits are where the air comes out. And we're probably going to be using that one most of the time because you want as much of the air in as tight of a spot as possible so you don't melt other things. And probably what we'll do next week or the week after, depending on how much we get done on the Voron, is we might do a little bit of soldering practice using some practice boards I bought. And then we might fix up a MOSFET on an old Creality board I've had sitting here for a long time, because it's on there and it works, but it's ugly and it's not straight, and it's bugged me the whole time I've had it. So yeah. Now we've got all of that stuff done, all that opening of box stuff done. Let's move the printer into shot, and we will do some work on it. Turn you guys around so you're ready. I can go in the bin. Jose, hello. I think that's a pretty good shot. Maybe we could tilt you guys down a little bit. Bit of rubbish. Oh, you've got one of the Exons as well, Raj. Awesome. So let's... There. That's pretty well centered in shot. It's not very straight, but that's all the parallax angles mostly. So where did we get to? We were tidying up wiring. Now we needed to take this big fat cable off, which is currently running the LEDs, and we needed to replace it. And we needed to tidy up this one, which is currently the power run to the old version of the K-hub, which has the power distribution on board. Now, I'm going to keep referring to K-hub and old version of K-hub, just to keep it straight in my head. For those of you who weren't here last week, I do prototype testing for Big Tree Tech, and sometimes they abandon projects and go in a completely different direction. It was one of those things that they did with this. They decided that they didn't want anything as big and bulky and complicated as the old version of the K-hub. It's got all the 4 USB ports that we've seen on the new version, but it also has CAN bus pass-through and power pass-through for 24 volts. So that's back in screen. What we need to do is we need to start fitting a whole bunch of things now. Let me move this. Guys, tip for you. When your wife has some old tea towels and they decide that they don't like them anymore, or other half, grab them, steal them. They're great for wiping up things in your workshop. And they're also good for grabbing your hot build plates. So if you're pulling out 100C build plates and toasting your fingers, why toast your fingers when you can do something sensible like hold them with a tea towel? After all, it's what you do with your oven mitts for things you're pulling out of the oven. So why not? Now, I'm just going to get a few of these bits and pieces that are stuck on the top moved so I don't knock them on the floor. Other thing I did during the week. Oh, hi, Jeremy. I've printed a new, tidier version of the inlet mask and also printed up a support for it so that I can screw it to the frame, because at the moment the what am I thinking of? The Vivid buffer is floating loose and it's not held in place nicely. So I printed something up to make it a little bit nicer and easier to work with. That's an old cable that we don't need right now. In fact, I'm going to plug that into its screen. There we go. No idea where that screw came from, which is a little bit disturbing, but I will put it right there so I can see it. Hi, Keela. All right. So, just in case we need them, a couple of spare DIN mount clips. Now, these were printed not long before those red parts, and these came out all right. These actually printed quite nicely. They're printed in PETG, so they're a little bit lumpy, but PETG always is. And then everything started going downhill. So I don't quite know exactly what caused the nozzle to suddenly open up and do strange things, but so what these are, for those of you who weren't here last week, I have printed a whole bunch of cable bases, and we're basically going to stick these wherever we need to, and then screw the tops on to hold the wires in place. That way, hopefully, rather than having a huge mess of spaghetti behind my printer, it will be somewhat tidy. We also need to zip tie that up out of the way. Now that's just the 24 volt PWM run for the daylight sticks. Last thing we're going to need is the tape. Did I leave that on the bench here? No. That must be in my drawer. And I need to put the 60 volt power supply somewhere safe, because we might want that for the Mercury one later. Let's put it in this drawer. Remember I was talking about that disgusting MOSFET that wasn't very straight? There it is. And to put that back into place in that tiny spot without melting everything, that's going to be a miracle. Oh, hi, Alex. I feel like Phil is trying to ignore and skirt the shipment of furry animals. I have no idea what furry animals he's talking to, but anyway. That's one busy underside, said the actress to the bishop. Thanks, Caleb. Oh, that's where my blue tape went, so that can go back in the tape drawer. There's my double-sided tape. Use some heat tape and foil around it. I do have a whole bunch of Kapton, and that is the plan. So hopefully we should end up with a reasonably successful fix for that. And with that, those new much higher powered soldering tips, we should have a pretty good success as well. So what I'm doing at the moment, which you can't easily see because of the chat text, is I'm just prepping some of these Mrs. Maker said, I'm borrowing your cutting board. And she's put it back over here. Rather than cutting into my nice top, I use this old bamboo cutting board. Let's go to that one so you can see. Now this isn't an X-Acto knife, this is a proper surgical scalpel, and they are so much sharper. Which means that they cut through the UHB tape super clean. Now I'm going to do a bunch of these so that we don't have to keep coming back. Now let's check out what abuses are going on in chat. Hello, the 123 There's something just weird going on my screen. Let's get rid of that one. And tab back. There we go. What's the fan on the top right? Top right. This one? Is this the one you mean, John? That's the cooling fan for the K-Hub. The new version of the K-Hub has its own fan built in. And yes, you're right, the reflective bottom panel does make it look messy, but it was better to have the shiny spot down than the shiny side up. I see, oh yeah. So these are just cooling fans for the MOSFETs on the step sticks. Yeah, this fan is for the K-Hub, the 24-volt power supply in it. It needs that extra cooling. Now, as I understand it, Brad has just received, or is just about to receive, his K-Hub that he ordered. For some reason, he seems to think that my judgment is good enough for him to have ordered one. So, now I really would have loved them to have gone into production with the original version. It is in my opinion, super practical, but they decided that it didn't meet the needs of the broader audience that they wanted to aim at. So we have a whole bunch of those bases done, and we can always print more for next week if we need them, but hopefully I have enough now. That's what I was going to do. I was actually going to replace that cable entirely, wasn't I? Where does that connect? That was me not practicing what I preach. That's what that cable was doing. That's how that cable's powered. Okay, now let's talk about this. I'm going to explain one of my things. This LED power run is using obscenely fat cables because it's what I had handy. Plus LEDs do suck a lot of juice, but way more than this cable's way overrated. This is plugged into the hot end output. Perfectly fine for LEDs. But it's also a great way potentially to run your CAN bus tool heads and stuff. By running the positive power from your MCU board, you're protected by its onboard fuses. You can't see the fuses actually on this board because they're all hidden away behind here. But this board has a whole bunch of fuses on board to protect all the 24-volt gear. Everyone, Phil has promised me a koala. No, I haven't promised you a koala, and I haven't promised you a drop bear. You had been drinking way too much and decided that I had. Anyway, so by powering it via the positive power via the MCU board, you get to use its onboard fuses to protect whatever's connected to it. Now, for LEDs, having the switched negative Okay, hopefully this is back on. I'll wait until you guys say in chat that you can see me. He's back. Yes, awesome. Thanks, Caleb. I need to stop drinking that coffee. The milk tastes like it's maybe approaching its date. Anyway. So, where was I? Yes. I don't feel comfortable running 10 amps to a tool head or potentially multiple tool heads unprotected. So I'm going to change that wiring around it, and I'm going to make sure that there is a fuse on that connection. Hey, Jeff. You just missed the little bit of a dropout. So hopefully everything is all sorted for you guys now. What I'm guessing is they had some planned works for the local node that all the fibers connect to. And I'm guessing that they've restarted it for some reason because it wasn't at my end. My NBN router with National Broadband Network router was online. My internal firewall and router was online. It just dropped out after that. So it must have been something at the network level, at the broader network level. So I do have a base plate just to keep people like Steve happy. And we will stick it back on at some stage. So where were we at? We were telling people about the fan. We're going to leave the U2C in place for now because I need to check a few things to do with the CAN bus on the Pad 5 once we've got it booted up. And I don't want to have the printer offline any longer than I need to. So we can swap that around at a later stage. So let's rotate this around here. And we're going to need some screws, and we're going to need some hammerhead T-nuts. They might be in the parts tray here. Nope, they're not in the parts tray. I think they're M310s from memory. There might be M3.8s. I'll grab both. And we're going to need some M3 T-nuts. T-nuts, hammerhead, M3. 1, 2. Now, this version of the mount has 3 holes in it because that's what the original version had. I don't normally use them, all 3. I just normally use 2 because it just takes too long to take it on and off. And an M3.8 is going to be plenty long enough. So let's go back to that one. One. Ha, ha, ha. Just quickly catching up on chat, and it's mostly everybody saying hi to Jeff. Now that's one of the pretty audio dark colored ones. Let's go with a plain old silver one. Now, another example of the crusty printing. Look how ugly that. Yeah, no idea. But sounds like Mrs. Maker's awake, which could mean trouble. What time is it? It's 3:45 in the morning. She's never up at this time. If I hear too much more banging around, I will go and quickly check on her if you guys don't mind. Because, yeah, like I said, it's unusual for her to be up at this time. Why is that? There we go, that's better. So, let's swap back to the side cam and let's get this plugged, screwed in. So Jeremy and Keela, now you've got a core 1 and join the cool kids. What's your plans for it? Are you going to be putting an index on it, or is it just purely because you want to be cool kids? So that's in place. Next up, we've got to plug that network extension in. That goes that way. Tuck that in behind here. Now, the entire reason for doing a lot of this was so that I could slide this MCU board down a bit. Did I do a dumb? Wouldn't surprise me. I'm trying to unclip this. There we go. There we go. Now we've got a lot more space. That was one of the things I meant to do last week. That then will run around there. And then I need to get a replacement plug, I realized, just to make that nice and tidy. Sorry, I was standing in the middle of that for most of the time, wasn't I? What I was doing, I was just moving the octopus board a little bit south to make more room for the wiring here. So let's get some of these clips in place. Silval teased something about their tool changer yesterday on their stream. Yeah, everybody's a bit confused, and somebody showed me some suggestions that it was everything they showed so far is just AI renders. Whether that's true or not, of course, only they know, but so that's in there. And screw on cover. There we go. I'm just reading back through chat, and I just saw that Keela said that they're probably going to index up the Core 1L if they do it, which makes sense. Now, that's already cable tied into place, so probably going to have to take that off. Yeah. Sorry. Good thing about these clips is you can take them off. I'd like to run the network cable behind that. That makes more sense. There we go. And then put the cover back on. They've been saying it's 6 tools over and over. Then one of the renders showed all four spools hanging off one side, which doesn't make any sense from a whole bunch of balance and frames. Yeah. It's like they're going, let's just make people think about our brand, and we'll fill in the gaps later. This is just some old VHB tape still stuck in the bottom. Just getting rid of so I can have more room to stick my own new VHB. Now this was from the 60-volt power supply that was sitting in here. There we go. Better than them using Kickstarter. I agree. If you're a big company, you've got no need for Kickstarter. And I'm a firm believer that Kickstarter maybe could be a platform they could use, but not as a fundraising situation. It should be all set aside so that they have a two-tier system. A fundraiser for small business and a promotions that are actually paid for by big business. this bit of the base is a little bit spongy. There we go. Means I probably need another clip somewhere here to hold the base plate in its spot. Now I'm not going to bother with any more of those cable bases for this because that's all tucked up nicely. So let's that's fun. I just accidentally unplugged the cable from the LED strip. Oh, I managed to jag it. The good thing about having such big fat wire is it's pretty stiff and I think that's what I want to do. Now, let me explain my philosophy. Philosophy. When you're running cables with data signals in them, it's better to run them parallel at a distance. By running them next to each other, you're just encouraging crosstalk. So what I'm planning to do, because this has got a PWM, which is quite noisy electronically, I'm going to move this wire over here a bit to give it a little bit of separation so that it shouldn't be able to transfer too much noise into the other cables, especially considering it's pulling well over an amp. And I am probably going to replace it with some thinner stuff, I think. But the beauty of these, again, with these cable management clips is we can, actually, let's do this one while we're here. We can swap them in and out. Hello, Heathen. Time to do the cross-promotion talk as usual. Everybody go subscribe to Lee Marie, to Projects in Dad's Garage. The Free Heathen Workshop is on YouTube and on Twitch. Mrs. Lee Marie has her own Twitch channel, which I've not seen her on recently, but I assume she's still working on. I know that John has started streaming semi-frequently with his projects. So yeah, go subscribe to all those guys if you haven't already. Yeah, we have very strict quarantine laws coming into Australia, Keela. I assume you've been watching Border Patrol. And yeah, people trying to sneak things into Australia food-wise is often what they get busted for. It's not usually drugs. It's usually trying to bring in fruit and vegetables, particularly, and this isn't being racist in any way, particularly from Asia, because the cultural differences, there's just a difference. People don't understand that if they bring in one little parasite, it could end up destroying vast swathes of vegetation. At the moment, locally to where I am, there's an invasive species called shot-hole borer, which is kind of like a termite, and it's currently eating its way through all of the native trees. And we've also got another one called dieback, which was introduced by a big overseas mining firm when they had some of their execs visit. And those execs hadn't cleaned their shoes between a previous mine site and coming into Australia, and they transferred it into the native bushland, and it's killed millions of trees. So we have plenty of stuff that's gonna kill us, but there's also plenty of stuff that will kill our wildlife and our native flora, because it's just not evolved to cope with those kind of pests. James wanted to let you know he says hi. Hi, James. Go subscribe to Penguin Makers as well. Not for Penguin. Penguin's okay, but don't subscribe for Penguin. Subscribe for James and his cutting comments, because that's what makes that stream. I'm sorry, Penguin. You're an awesome dude, but James is what we all come for. So got the cables relatively managed, and they're no longer flopping and loose on the back of my printer, which has been the big hassle up until recently. And you're not going to be able to see an awful lot for the next bit, I don't think. Maybe if I swap sides and work from the other side. Yeah, maybe what I have to do. Let's take that panel off entirely, so it doesn't get broken against anything. Yeah, I was teasing Penguin. We do love Penguin. We don't all come for James's cutting comments, but yeah, James has a uniquely sarcastic sense of humor, which appeals mostly to Aussies. So this is the buffer for the Big Tree Tech Vivid. Oh. That is the inlet mask that I hacked together. That's my CAN bus umbilical. Now, this is why the K-Hub, the old version, is really nice. Let me put that into screen for you. I don't have to unwire the whole tool head. I can just do this. So first of all, I'm going to need some M5s from memory. M5 by 10. Is M4 by 10? Cloudy with a chance of meatballs. I'm confused what's going on. So I'm just pre-screwing in the M5 screws. Oh, yeah, my panel's, yeah, definitely cloudy. That's a few thousand hours of printing ABS has made them all gooey and cloudy. And unfortunately, it's a situation of I could spend money on content for you guys, or I can spend money on new panels. Gah. That would explain it. At some stage, the little marble and spring have come out. That's the hammer heads. I want the T-nut. I don't want those. I want the roll-ins. Here we go. M5. Complete with marble. That's what it should look like. Let's pick up that screw before I stand on it and end up hurting myself. That's better. Now it's not trying to run away on me. That one's gripped. That looks like it's lined up enough. Yep. So now that's in its right spot. That's the mask, which goes in here. Ah. I'm going to have to adjust the mask. One sec. Sorry, the support plate. What's going on is it's a little bit too close on this side and too far away on this side. There we go. That's better. Now, which way around does that go? That goes that way. And that goes that way. So CAN bus needs to come through the top one. Sorry guys, I'm going to turn this around so you can see a little bit more. It's one of those awkward situations where no angle is a good angle. Yeah, content product adds up fast. Beats me how Terry and Dave can constantly afford printers. Ow. The buffer can stay on the floor. Let's get this shroud on first. I know I'm probably in the way for some of this, I'm sorry. There we go. That should be a bit better. There we go. That should at least hold that in spot now. I'm going to swap that out for an M310. 310 in the nice black screws from LDO. Yeah, that's not going to reach, not nicely. Let's do the other screw first. How's Micromaker enjoying platform 9 3/4? She is loving it. For those of you who aren't members of my Discord, go sign up. In fact, let me turn the bot on so that it will spam you guys. June 591, hello. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Yeah, Minimaker is loving building the platform 9 3/4. Now, it's not real Lego. I want to make that clear for those of you who haven't been following my Discord. It's the AliExpress knockoff stuff. But so far, it's a one-to-one clone. And apart from a few little eccentricities, like you have to assemble the minifigs yourself, like you have to put their arms on yourself and that sort of stuff, there's no significant differences between the original and the knockoff version. I would love to be able to afford genuine Lego the whole time, but her habits when it comes to Lego are quite expensive. Okay, so the internal shroud is on. Let me grab the buffer off the floor from where it fell. That slots into place with a nice friction fit. Just make sure which way around it goes. That way. There we go. So that's the data for the buffer. Which then fits through there. Then we can plug the PTFE tube back into the buffer. And the mechanism on that buffer is feels so different to the old one, the original prototype one that I sent. So yeah, that looks like it's now in place. Old shroud in the bin. And while I can see it, I'm just going to reach in and get all that grot that's been living under my heated bed. There's that missing screw. In fact, seeing as Jeff has missed it, that's 2 8s and a 10. I'll go quickly grab it, 1 minute. That way. That's Professor Lupin and Ron and Harry, and there's a whole bunch more minifigs we haven't got to in the destructions yet. And these little white flags are where the platform numbers will go. That's where it says platform 9 3/4. There's a whole bunch of extra stickers, and this is even to the point where there's a whole bunch of other stuff stuck in here, but this is the mysterious door, and it does wiggle. So yeah, the local price of the original is like 200 Australian dollars, and the knockoff cost me $33. So when it's for a little kid who doesn't care, and it's going together so well, I'm quite happy with it. Although it did take quite a while to arrive. This, along with the hot air station, spent 3.5 weeks in quarantine and customs. So, and give me a moment. We've got the rolling chassis built for the steam locomotive too. Let's go to this one. So that's the rolling chassis for the steam locomotive. And even to the point where this model has the piston rods that actually wiggle, which is kind of cool. So yeah. For those of you who are British steam aficionados, the Hogwarts Express locomotive is actually based on I think it's a Jubilee class steam loco. Turn this around. So yeah. Next will be the coal tender, and then if there's an actual carriage for the minifigs to ride in. But Mini Maker loves her Lego. I love building it with her. But the daddy-daughter experience that we're not arguing about, because she's 4 now and she likes to argue. So where were we? We were dealing with Vivid. That needs to go up there. That's the Vivid's main cable. I think we're about ready to turn this printer back on its feet. Helps if it's the right way out, Phil. I had the foam insulation pointing out at me and didn't realize until I got almost done. Now, one of the changes I want to make on this in the near term is beefy idlers. And it does look like I need to print a whole bunch of new panel clips because these are all coming to pieces. Gravity is doing more work than it should be on this lid right now. So that's scalpel fill. Tweezers. An old piece of filament stuck in the extrusion. So that one needs a new clip. That one needs a new clip. I've got 2. That one needs a new clip. So that's something we're going to need to get done. That one seems to be fine. Well, even though it's not been assembled properly by the looks of it. Just doing a quick walk around. I'm going to plug in the power plug for the screen. And that's something we're going to need to tag up. Okay, so that power cable is going to go there. Now, I would love to have 100% everything cable tied, everything pretty cable pawn. But it's not possible when you're doing lots and lots of beta testing like I do. because I need slack on the wires to be able to adjust things and change things and move things. Just simply tidying up what I've been doing here is going to make my life an awful lot simpler. So that goes there. It's not quite big enough. So let's rely on those two to hold that one. It's not quite, the mount isn't quite deep enough to hold all 3 passes of that, but that should be enough to keep that relatively under control. Now that does stick slightly proud of the bottom of the mount, and I do want to get myself a different elbow. So this is currently the Type-C connector I've got. What I want is, rather than it coming out the side, I want it to come out of the front or back face so that it actually sits flatter against the bottom of the unit. So I've got a new one of those on order, and we can swap that out relatively simply when it arrives. That needs something. My cable tie stash, where did I put it? I have a giant stash of LDO cable ties. Can't find it. I'll raid my other stash. So, just checking on chat. Adjust my view back. I think I already did that for you, Jeff. There we go. Should be in the middle of the screen again now. Okay, so it's zip tied in place. Get the rubbish snips and go cut. So that USB cable could use with being managed, mostly so it doesn't snag on anything. Now, I'm really not happy with its separation from the SSR, but there's not an awful lot I can do. Fortunately, I think it's the input signal which is low current. Cable stretchers are reserved for the new guy. There are such things as cable stretchers. I've seen them in use, but they tend to be for cables they're used on power station level gear, where the cables are so fat that there's plenty of room to make use of that. It's better than it was. I think I'm going to be unconventional. It's not ideal, but this will actually hold the cables somewhat safely. Now, let me explain my logic here. This is the center panel. This is the panel where all the network cables and USB cables are passed out through the skirts. I am not mounting the cable support on this panel deliberately, because if I ever need access, I don't want to have to undo all of the cables. So what I'm doing is I'm just I can't do all of it. Let's skip the USB cable. So I'm managing these cables in a way that means that I can still take that other panel off. Now I realize this is all black on black and very difficult to see, but this panel here and this panel here are different. I've managed all the cables up on this panel where all the cables are, meaning that this panel can come off. Just to go over that again. That is either clicky or thermistor. Based on where it plugs into, it's probably clicky. Let me just double check this. Actually, we can power the printer up now. I'm just grabbing the power cable that I normally use. Now, those of you who are familiar with computers and data centers will recognize this. It's a dual output cable. Because the Vivid has its own 240-volt power needs, it made sense for me to swap out for one of those so that everything is all on one socket. And I've got plenty of juice on my sockets. Oh. Can you see the magic smoke? Something was not happy. Something's gone pop. And I've probably just blown up my octopus. There was magic smoke. I hope you clicked it. That's expensive. There was many, many, many smokes. I can still see the smoke drifting through. Nothing is significantly changed to cause that to go pop. I'm hoping that that was fuses that went pop because it was all in the right spot for it to be fuses. Oof, magic smoke, not good. Oh no, pixie smoke. I arrived just in time. Oh, thanks, Mad Owl. That's brutal. That sucks. I'm sorry that happened. Okay. Mains is unplugged. So we're safe electrically. Let's... We need to find out what went pop and why. That was a lot of juice, which means it was probably... I'm going to take a punt on that being the LEDs that went pop. Did anybody see exactly where the sparks came from? Didn't quite see where it came from. The alarming thing is nothing has really changed at this end. Right, let's start post-morteming. Can't change the past, we can see what's wrong and hopefully diagnose what we need to fix slash replace slash repair. That cable's not quite long enough. That one, however, should be. What I'm planning to do is see if we can power up the Pad 5 V2, make sure that that's intact. That's not the right kind of cable, so that's not going to help. Type C cable and a really long one. Nope. Actually, I might be able to power it up from there. Is anybody able to go back through the video? That's reasonably promising. I've got a whole bunch of lights on. Insufficient power warning. That might just not be enough juice on that. Did anybody notice on the video where the sparks came from? Got a power supply that I know works for the screen. I'm just trying to find it. I was tidying things away. There's my LDO cable ties. Sorry guys, I think you understand, a little bit shocked. Not electrically, just a little bit stunned that everything just went pop. Jeff's already looking back for me. Thanks, Jeff. Deep breaths, Phil. Deep breaths. I don't think the CM5 is a problem. It was like there was enough lights on the back of the screen to say your arm got in the way. Can't quite tell where it came from. Octopus did light up. I saw sparks coming from this general area. They might have been from the fan, which wouldn't surprise me because these are cheap, nasty. I'll be back momentarily. Just going to try and find that Type C supply. It's a very confused beagle sitting outside the door. Okay. Okay. That seems like it's booting up. Yep, that's booting up. So pad 5 is fine. That's cool. Then it sits there and hangs there for a long time because of something weird in its config before Clipper Screen launches. So we'll leave that running just to make sure it does get to Clipper Screen. Let's unplug these fans. And thanks, R squared. That's not the right driver size. That's the right driver size. So I'm going to take the fan shroudy cover thingy off and see if we can see anything char grilled. Right, that's the fan covery thing. Now, taking that off means that the octopus isn't screwed in. So I'm just going to put one screw in here so it's not flopping loose. There's nothing obviously char grilled. I'm going to take that one and that one out because they are prototypes I'm not allowed to show you guys. There's nothing obviously gone pew. Actually, let's take the screw out for a second. Could it have been when I moved the octopus, I've disturbed something underneath and pulled a plug out or something? No, there's nothing to short against. I was like, maybe I unplugged a connector underneath and it shorted against the back of the board. One thing we know for sure is it's not the CAN bus tool head, because that's not connected here because of my ranting a few minutes ago. Let's put one more screw in there. Can you just power the fan separately to check? Maybe. Give me a minute. Just want to make sure this is all secured. Right, just want to make sure that can't fall off on me. That's not quite tight there. That's better. I'm going to take these fuses out one at a time and we're going to inspect the fuses. I think that's the best place to start. Well, it's one way to pivot content, I guess. Let's take the main fuse out. That one appears to be intact. I guess we could always fire up the multimeter now it's had a chance to charge and we can test it. Let's do that, in fact. I'm not going to go whole hog and set up the software for the screen, but we can do a beep test and you guys should be able to hear the beeps. One, two, take the covers off, power it up. I think that's in the right mode. It's not beeping. Why isn't it beeping? I don't know why it's not beeping. It's in continuity test mode anyway, so I can... Yep, that fuse is fine. Again, that fuse looks fine to me, but let's just continuity check it anyway. Yep, that's fine. And now for the final one. Now, people are going to go, well, why didn't the fuses protect your board? These fuses are designed to protect your house, not your board. And again, that fuse is fine. So that's there. I'm going to unplug the pad 5 now so that cable's not in the way, but I could see in the reflections that it was all powered up and happy. So let's turn that off and unplug it. Hope you guys are proud of me. This is normally the time when I would be standing here going F word, F word, F word, F word, F word. But I kept it under control. Has to be something at this end that went pop. I'm going to guess it's that MOSFET there that's gone, and maybe one of the inductors. Sorry guys, I'm just thinking this through. Now with having so many redundant ports on this machine, even if it's one of those MOSFETs that's gone pop, we can probably reuse those. Because the only thing that we actually need from these MOSFETs is the bed SSR. I can live without the lights. I can still smell magic smoke. The other thing is we hadn't even got to running the 24 volt power for the K-hub yet. Not that it needs it for this situation. They're just the end stop wires. I'm really at a loss to explain what's gone pop. What time is it? It's 4:45. Guys, it's been an eventful episode. That one. So, I could use a sit down and to chill out and to think about all this and go through it. My proposal is that on the next surprise stream, let's flash your MCU. That's entirely possible, Gergman, and I am thinking through, can I afford a new octopus right now? Yeah, I'm thinking that at this point, my best bet is to pull the octopus out, put it under the microscope, and actually have a look at what's going on and see if we can identify what's going on. What I might do is do that off screen, and then next week we will start by a post-mortem on what caused all this. My next step is going to be to take a photo of the wiring so that it's easy to replicate and put all back into place. And then I will pull the octopus board out, have a look at it under a microscope for myself, and then we can go through and we can have a look next week all together, and we can test things out. Like Jeff says, there's a possibility it's just the fans, and I am really, really hoping that that is the case. I've just spotted I have some 9-volt batteries here. We might be able to power those fans up off those 9-volt batteries. So let's just voltage DC. Let's just, before I pack this up, let's see if these batteries actually work. The reason these 9-volt batteries are on my desk is because I needed to test if they were working or not. This one is all swelled up, so yep, that's dead. That one's also all swelled up. That's producing a whole 0.3 volts, so that's also dead. That one is 8.93, so that's good. That's producing 9.5, so both of those ones are good. Jumper wires. Better still, a PP3 connector. Like the merch, it's all available on my merch store. Links are in the description. Red and brown. So what I've got here is a couple of pre-made ribbon cables with jumper cables on them, jumper plugs, and I'm just going to quickly tap them to the battery, positive and negative. That fan works, and no sparky sparks. Let's go to, there you go. Yep. That fan also works, which is not a good sign for the octopus. So yeah, my next step, just so you guys know what I'm going to do, is I'm going to take a photograph of this so I know where all the wires go back. And then I'm going to pull the board out, stick it under the microscope, try and diagnose roughly where the fault is, and then I can show you guys next week. And it looks like I'm almost certainly ordering a new octopus this week for next week. RJ will tell you it's the CAN bus and you should have used USB. But RJ's a... Yeah, we won't go there. Or was that Penguin? Penguin's embracing the CAN bus. Time to bust out that multimeter. Yeah, I'm going to. Yeah, definitely not what we wanted to hear. We were hoping it was going to be a fan because it was in the right sort of spot from where I saw the sparks. But like I said, we still might be good with this board. It could be just one MOSFET channel's gone pop and we can continue with a different MOSFET channel. This has got, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 hot end outputs, or one bed output and 3 or 4 hot end outputs. So we've got enough MOSFETs that we should be good. Just put all that away and turn that meter off. So with that, I have been Phil. I have been the Down Under Maker. This was an explosion. It's time for me to hop on out of here. I'll catch you all next week. Bye, guys.